Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, like I said, Jason Santiago. I'm creating this podcast because there's a lot of heroes out there that need their story to be told. I've met a lot of amazing people in my 15 years in the Army, and I just feel it's time for the aviation aspect to share their stories and let the world know how pivotal we are on the battle space and, the amount of lives we affected, impacted, and I just feel this will be a good platform for therapy. First off, nobody comes back from combat the same person. In 2004, I came back from my first deployment in Iraq, and I knew something was different, but I didn't know what it was. In addition to that, I didn't have time to worry about what it was because I left Iraq and I went straight to flight school. Now let's rewind a little bit. Before I went to flight school, I was in the Army for about four years at that time. I had an opportunity to get out, but I wanted to stay in. And I felt it was just something I wanted to do in life. Military, I never knew I wanted to be in the military, but when it happened, I loved it. Now, there was a lot of hard times in the Army, and I'm not going to sit here and say the Army was great and the Army was good for me and what it served for me. But there was a lot of trials and tribulations, and there's a lot of things I've been through, like a lot of other soldiers and other people in the military. So I just wanted a better quality of life in the military. I decided to become a warrant officer. I applied to flight school. Funny story is I didn't get selected the first time, and I wasn't even going to reapply. I was going to come back from Iraq, get out the Army. However, the second board, back then, they just automatically put your packet in, and I got picked up. And I was ecstatic when that happened. I left Iraq. Didn't even have time to wind down. I went straight from a combat zone. About literally 2 weeks later, I was in flight school. So I knew things were different. I just didn't know what was different. Fast forward, get out of flight school, 2008, find myself in Afghanistan. Very tough deployment. I was out in RC East with Alpha Company, Warlords. Shout out to all the Warlords. 6101 Combat Aviation Brigade in Fort Campbell. We're in RC East at the time. Our main mission, I did a lot while I was out there. I did a lot of medevac support. We moved the battlefield, a lot of GSAT missions, just moving people around. So I actually became a PC out there at the time. But before I went to Afghanistan, I lived in Egypt for about a year. Left there, went to Fort Campbell, off to Afghanistan. After that, became a SEER instructor. I just needed a break. So was a SEER instructor 2.5 years. After that, went to maintenance test pilot school. After I became a maintenance test pilot, I requested to go to the medevac, Charlie Company, 6101 Combat Aviation Brigade in Fort Campbell. And bam, that's where I was. We got deployed 2012 to 2013. That's just Cliff Notes version. There's a lot of other stuff, but this podcast is really not about me. This is how I get therapy for myself, because I realized when I got home in 2008, I had a problem. I had a real problem. Mental health was tough. But in the Army, back then we weren't told to voice those things, or as an aviator, we were in fear of being grounded if they knew we had an issue. And that's a real prevalent I don't know what's going on in the Army now. I'm just speaking about my guys and my generation, or ladies. If I say guys, it's all encompassing, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But 2008, pivotal moment for me. I was drinking one night, and once again, I'm creating a safe space. And a lot of people don't even know this. I was drinking one night, made some bad decisions. I got mad, and I broke the door off my hand, off the hinges of my door. And when I tell you I broke it off, I beat it into like 100 shreds. I didn't just tear it down. I beat the door off the hinges with my bare hands. And it's something I wasn't proud of. But that moment, I knew I had an issue because I never had that level of anger. But it was suppressed, and I was covering it up with alcohol. From there, I just kept fighting forward, kept moving on. That's when I knew, like, man, maybe it's good that I am taking this break off the flight line, go down to Rucker, be a SEER instructor 2.5 years, spend some time with my family, because at this time I was married, and literally I was married to my wife for, I'd say 2+ years, and I've only lived with her maybe a year at the time, because I was just always going in the Army. Aviation, we do a lot of training. We're the first ones there, last ones to leave. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the job. So 2008, I realized I had a problem. Like I said, I didn't want to get help because I didn't want to get grounded as an aviator. So I just suppressed a lot of it, compartmentalized, and things just piled up. From there, go back to Afghanistan, 12 and 13. And just, once again, being a medevac pilot, the amount of trauma that we see, especially at a young age, it's very overwhelming. And the human mind, it's hard for you to process that information. But once again, we're not told, but it's just an unwritten rule in the Army. Deal with it, suck it up. This is your job. This is what you signed up for. So a lot of us, that's what we do. I remember flying mission after mission, man. We're picking up people that, like, mutilated bodies and people that are in bad shape. And these crew chiefs and the medics, they're getting these individuals and no time to decompress. Drop them off, bam, out again for another mission. So it was a vicious cycle. And I'm only saying that to paint the picture of what, these aviators, these crew chiefs, flight medics, the things they deal with. And I've seen these young crew chiefs, they seize up, because these are young people in the back. I'm young. I started flying when I was 24 years old. 24. So I had a lot of responsibilities at that time, and as I became older, I always try to relate and always try to be sympathetic to what we all were dealing with at the time. But once again, it's what we decided to do. It's something I don't regret. It's something I would do again to this day. And I always appreciate what the Army has done for me and where it's taken me in my life. Now, the picture behind me, it's one of the missions we served in, but that's my retirement plaque behind me. The end of 2014, a very, very tough transition for me. I spent the majority of my my whole young adult life, from the age of 19 to about 35, I was in the Army. And that's all I knew. And it was all taken away from me. I retired early due to some medical conditions, and it was just time for me to go. Like, God would tell you when it's time for you to wrap it up. And that's essentially what I had to do. I had to wrap it up. And that's what I did. Once I left the Army, my transition was tough, just like many other veterans out there. Very tough, because we're stripped of our identity. We have a lot of mental health issues, especially the combat veterans. Those are the ones I'm talking about that I could relate to. Now, there's other people out there with other, mental health issues or what they've dealt with in the military. I'm not familiar. This platform is going to be used for, other people's stories. I want people to tell their story in relation to whatever it is, because we're going to be talking about their childhood, their upbringing, all types of things. And that's what I want to give them. So I realized I had an issue. I had a divorce because I made some bad decisions. My whole life was pretty much crumbling before me. And I'll never forget the day I was sitting on my couch. And I've been laying there for about 3 or 4 days. Just got up, went to the bathroom to sit, would eat a little bit. And I realized that if I didn't do something for myself, like my future or my life was going to look very grim. And just so you guys know, I am a victim of suicide. My father committed suicide when I was 2 years old. So it's not something that I thought of, but I knew that if I continued where I was at, that's where it was going to lead to. So I don't know what it was. I tell a lot of people it was God just spoke in my head and said, hey, get off the couch. I contacted the VA, and that's when I started getting help. And that's when I got very, very intentional about changing my life, because I didn't want to become a victim. I didn't want to cause pain for my family members, my children. That was the biggest thing. I knew the pain that suicide my father committed, the pain it caused in my life. So I didn't want to create that for my own family. I couldn't do it to my mother or my brother. Definitely couldn't do it to them. And I couldn't do it to my children because it's not their fault. So I went and got help with the VA. VA, tip standard thing, a lot of medications. Shit had me feeling like a zombie. So I talked to my psychiatrist at the VA. I said, hey, what about a service dog? Can I get a service dog? And she linked me up with Canine for Warriors. Shout out to Canine for Warriors. And I got Bristol, my service dog. And Bristol and working out essentially saved my life. And that's another thing I'm going to use this platform for. I want the world to understand that if you're going to fix your mental health, you have to exercise. There's science behind this all over the internet. And regardless of the science, I'm living testament to it. That anytime you have mental health issues, it is extremely dire for you to work on your body. The reason I say this because your body produces these chemicals when you exercise. Those feel-good chemicals, the serotonin, the dopamine, those type of things. So I started exercising while I was getting my MBA at Tennessee State University here in Nashville. And right before I graduated, I reached out to a local gym, and I just started coaching. So I started coaching, and that was another therapy for me. That's my therapy, guys. I want the audience to know my therapy, because I don't know if I'll ever be fixed. Because there's things that happen. I got the bad dreams. There's things that happen to me that I struggle with it every day. I struggle with it. And I'm just going to let the world know that I struggle with it. And it's okay, because I identify those things, but I'm still working on myself every day. Every day I work on myself. But I do it I work out, I eat healthy, and I'm not saying that to say that I'm perfect, because I'm not, but I worked on my discipline. I was a personal trainer for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Then I decided to open my own gym. It's called Fit Rev Training. And when I opened Fit Rev, I stopped taking care of myself for the sake of my business and my customers. And that's where I made a huge mistake again. I got overweight. And when I say overweight, I put about 15 to 20 pounds on. And then I realized that my mental health was starting to affect me again. Things are starting to get dark and gloomy. And the reason being, I wasn't taking care of myself. So I think it was 2022, I made a decision to start making myself a priority, because I've realized that if I'm not taking care of myself, loving myself, pouring into myself, it's only going to affect the people that I love around me. So that's what I did. I started losing weight, got in some great shape, and I just started really focusing on that. And that's where we're at today. I focus on making sure as a leader, I want to lead by example. The things that I preach, I do. And I will never have my people or the people I lead do anything I'm not willing to do. So it's important to me to make sure that I am working out I am making sure that I try to keep myself in alignment. But it's hard every day. It's struggles. I have bad days, like many other veterans can relate to. I do have the bad dreams. There's dates out there that bother me. I mean, there's things out there, typical things. It's not typical, but it becomes so standard in our lives that we just try to make it seem normal, but it's really not normal, especially when my psychiatrist and my therapist pointed out to me. So I want people to understand that when you're working on your physical health and your mental health, it's a daily thing. You have to do it continuously. It's not, we're going to do it once a week. Stop. You have to do it. Be mindful of it. And if you're not perfect, it's okay. Keep working towards that. All right. Progress. We want to get progress. Instill that discipline. Get those habits that create discipline. The discipline will help change your life. And just figure out what you can use as that outlet that's going to help you help your therapy out. That's the best thing I can say. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and there's really not a platform out there for the Army Aviator. So I wanted to create that. So I started reaching out to a lot of my buddies, and that's what we're going to do. You guys are going to hear a lot of great stories. You're going to meet a lot of great people. You're going to hear some sad stories, some good stories. You're just going to hear it all. And I just think, like I said, I want to provide, there's people out there that can relate to the things, and there's people that can't relate, but they may want to hear what we have to say as Army aviators. And that's essentially what I want to do. The stories of the soldiers. And I know some amazing people. My heroes in life are flight medics. Just the level of adversity and selfless sacrifice that I've seen these people make, it is very humbling to even call them friends and be a part of their lives. And there's one thing I've noticed about the Army, and to all the branches out there, I'm going to speak a lot about the Army because that's all I know is the Army. The greatest things about the Army is you take people from all walks of life. It doesn't matter where they're from. And we all, when you get deployed, we all have a common goal to get home together, take care of each other while we're there. When we get home, we part ways, and it is what it is because we all have our own families. But you'll always know there's some people that I could call to this day, and bam, they'll do whatever I need them to do. And that's like why they could do the same for me. If they need me, they can call me. I'm here to help them. And that's something that you build in the Army. That's something that you really I haven't encountered. I've been out of the Army we're coming on close to 10 years now, and I haven't been able to replicate that or see that in the civilian sector. So when the Army really teaches you that selfless service, that camaraderie, it's a real thing. And if you've never experienced that, I know people on teams have experienced it, but if you never experienced that, when you meet strangers and their level of sacrifice and commitment to you, simply because we're on the same team, is a very honoring thing. Very honoring. So once again, I'm here to create that space for all those aviators out there. That's the stuff we're going to talk about. The ways we pushed ourselves mentally, physically. We pushed our aircraft to go save the lives of other Americans. Never second guessed it. I never second guessed it. And, I'll tell my stories as we go along through the episodes and I meet individuals, but there was never a time where I had to land and go pick somebody up, an American, and I had to question that. There's times where we had to make hard decisions. There's times where we had to go against command decisions for the sake of saving lives, and we made that. And the reason I was always like that is because I knew that I could never come home and have that on my shoulders, that due to my incompetence or my lack of decision making, that someone died on my watch. And I have lost people in the back, but but that was something that I had no control over. I just pushed myself and my crew to do the best that we could, and we've always done that. So I'm okay with me pushing myself, knowing that I did the best that I could. My crew chiefs did the best that I could. And I think a lot of people forget war is an ugly thing. Combat is a very ugly thing. You see, I've said this time and time again, I've seen the best in humanity and the dark side of humanity within a few hours. But it's the nature of the industry, it's the nature of the beast. So, once again, we're going to be sharing a lot of great stories, struggles, you guys name it. It'll be emotional roller coasters, so just tune in. I'm excited to provide you guys these stories, give you this platform, and just let you know, let the world know that Army Aviation, we are a combat multiplier is what they called us back in the day. We're very good at our job. In my opinion, Army aviators are the best aviators in the world. It's just because the way we train, the way we continuously train, and we just take a lot of pride in the work we do. And I'm not saying all of them. There's always that top 10%, bottom 10% in everything you do in life. That's even in the most elite organizations to football teams, to sports. There's a top 10, bottom 10, then you got everybody in the middle. But I'm excited to give you guys this platform. Tune in. I will be releasing episodes on Fridays at 8 a.m. It'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. Listen to the stories of these soldiers, and we can just go from there. If you guys have questions, you can contact me on all my platforms. I'm on Facebook, Jason Santiago. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. For those platforms, it's _Jaysanti. That's JAYSANTI_lifestyle. I'm here to answer questions. And once again, I'm just providing that place for these soldiers to tell their stories, because once you guys hear their stories, you're going to see why I am blessed and honored to call these people my friends and to at least serve in the battlefield with them. And that's something that I'll take with me for the rest of my life. I'm honored and I'm grateful for it. Every day I'm grateful for it. So keep tuning in, guys. I'm excited. I will see you guys on the next episode. First episode will be with Sam Pemberton, one of the first, not the first, but he was one of my company commanders in Alpha Company 6101, and he was just one of the first commanders that played a positive impact in my life, and I'm excited for you guys to get to meet him, and we're going to go from there. After that, I got Jamie Houchasek, Command Sergeant Major. I mean, I got some great guys coming in. This is just the beginning. So tune in, get your popcorn, get your tissue. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, but I'm excited to bring it to you guys. So I will see you on Friday. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. I'm excited to create this platform and for you guys to participate. Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.